sure the lid is tight, it's depressed in this fashion, not convex but concave. And the end results being, we know we have a good vacuum on the system, it hasn't leaked, so therefore we'll go ahead and imprint this number on it, and then we put them back in here so they can dry. And so rather than going back and turning them over later, because actually what we've done is, see, we're the only licensed cannery in town. There's lots of other processors in town that can do things. Tapu Fisheries, for example, downtown. They do a lot of buying products and stuff like this. They buy fish directly ex vessel. They do a lot of their own smoking and that sort of thing. And they can pack their own fish in bottles, but they cannot legally cook it. Okay, so they bring it out here, we cook it, we imprint the labeling on here as far as the exact date for it, and they will put their own labels on this bottle. This is how a lot of industry works. So, as an example, we've all been to Fred Meyer's out there. Okay, and you walk into the store in there, and you see this label on a container or something, and it says Fred Meyer. Sure, but you know, like, well, we just picked on bleach as an example I use. Okay, you can buy a bottle of bleach that says Fred Meyer's brand on it, or you can buy Purex, which is made by Purex.
Now let's listen for the
So I can tell you right now, Fred Meyer does not make their own bleach. They do not catch their own fish and put them in cans. They will say Fred Meyer brand on them. Well, this is how that happens, is another company, like the Purex people, they actually do the bottling and everything, but they'll put a Fred Meyer's label on it for them. Okay? This is a very common practice. And the reason for that is just what you're researching here is food safety. Only certain people are licensed for food safety practices, and Fred Meyer's has got enough going on out there trying to sell stuff. They don't have time to run a cannery. They just don't have time for it. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Yeah, we got a couple.
Okay.
What kind of problems do you have with food safety?
Well, the biggest problem is to keep the place clean, okay? And we find it's much easier to maintain and keep something clean than it is to clean it up after a big mess has happened and we walk away from it. You'll notice you walk in here, you don't have a real heavy stench of dead fish smell, okay? I know, some people walk in and say, ooh, it smells fishy in here.
It smells like smoked fish.
Okay, smoked fish is a good smell.
Yeah.
That's a healthy one. Okay, but everybody smelled what an old dead fish down on the beach or something bear drug out of the creek. You know, just they smell pretty ugly. Well, that's after the bacteria started growing on those things, and it leaves off a lot of odors and really nasty smells. And that's one of the things that we don't want happening. The easiest way is if somebody spills something or make a mess, we clean up after ourselves right away, instead of leaving it to the end of the day for mom to take care of. Okay?
I like that analogy.
Thank you.
Of course you do.
Anyway, so and I'm not just giving you a hard time over this or anything like that, but the fact is when we're working in here, things spill, things happen, we drop something, it becomes a mess, or it can be. But if we clean it up right away and get to it, there's no place for the germs to get started in, and they can't grow if there's no environment to grow in. Just that simple. So if we maintain and take care of cleaning up on a regular basis all the time, it's a lot easier doing that than to wait until it gets totally out of control and try and fix it. You know, and I'll give you another little analogy here, is it starts to snow outside, which that's going to happen here pretty soon, is we go out there and we shovel the walkway and get after it so that it's taken care of when it's only an inch or two deep. If we waited until the weekend, and maybe because we have more time to do something on the weekend, to go out there, it might be a foot deep by then. That's going to be really hard work by then. But if we take care of it a little bit, an inch or two at a time, it's pretty easy work, goes fast.
Another question is, what happens when the power goes out?
What do we do when the power goes out?
Is that your?
We wait till the lights come back on.
I know, but what about the machines?
Oh, the machines stop. Yeah. What happens is most of our production work is all pretty well built right around the idea of we run something through, that part is done at that moment. Okay, so if something happens and stops, say a can is in the machine over here, halfway through the power outage, that can would probably be no good. Okay? Now, at that point, what we can do is we'll pull it out of the machine. We have some little hand tools where we can actually make it go through the system, get it out. What we'll do is we'll open it up and we'll repack the can, which you're going to see how to do that in a little bit. And then when the power comes back on, then we'll finish seaming it up. Okay, now the cookers, if the cookers go off the line, see there, we have a boiler that runs back there. We'll take you through and show you all this before we get started. But the boiler makes steam, and when the power goes down, if it's down just for a short time, we have enough steam on hand to maintain the cook for probably about 20-30 minutes. And if it goes beyond that, then the temperature and the pressure falls off before our allotted cook time. And then when it comes back up, then we have to start to cook all over from square one
Okay.
in order to get the proper attention to things. Okay, you had a
Alright.
question back here.
Dustin, did you have another question?
Oh, my question was the one that you just asked.
Oh, okay.
Still good, actually.
How do you prevent botulism?
Botulism is a really nasty little bug, and that's the big thing that we're really concerned with here more than any of the other bugs at all. The other bugs are important, but that's the real nasty killer. And how do we prevent that? And that's by putting it in that cooker and cooking it. And do you know the botulism? It's what we call an anaerobic bacteria. Are you familiar with that at all? Okay. I didn't know what level we were on here, so I thought I'd ask. Okay, we have aerobic bacteria and anaerobic bacteria. Anaerobic means without oxygen. Okay? That little bug, it likes to grow without oxygen. So with no oxygen in place in that can, because there's no oxygen in there, we suck it all out and we cook it. Okay, if there's some means for that little thing to grow in there, it likes it without oxygen. Believe it or not, there's things on Earth here that live without oxygen. And that's one of them. That's the real nasty, ugly little guy. And doesn't take much to hurt and kill people with that one. But the whole idea behind our cooking practice over there is primarily for that one. That's the highest level of, I guess, tolerance to heat is that little guy. And that's the one we're really aiming for when we go to sterilize.
Are dented cans dangerous?
They can be, okay? They can be. And for the most part, the old adage, I'll just say old because I grew up with it, is dented cans were considered bad, you threw them out. You didn't mess with them. But let me... Okay. We have a new style of can that's come into the marketplace, and I say new, this came out about 30 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, and it's what we call a one-piece can. And you notice how this piece, probably most of you have really never seen anything different than this, but anyway, you see there's no seam in the bottom of this, there's no side seam in this. Do we have one of the old style cans, or are they upstairs?
They're probably upstairs.
Is there one up there? You know, the king crab cans on the farm. Right there in the middle. No? Okay, anyway. Well, what happens is in the old style cans, we had 3 seams in this can. And when the cans used to come to Alaska for canning a long time ago, when your mothers and fathers were little kids, okay, is they would have a flat side like this, and they would flatten it to make it easy to pack on a pallet for shipping. And when they made it, they'd take a single piece of long piece of metal, strip metal, and they'd roll it, and they'd put a seam in it to join it together right here, okay? And then when it got up here, we'd reform it, we'd make it round again, and then we'd take a piece like this and we'd seam it on and put the bottom in it. And so this is going to make a seam here and do that. And so you already had a seamed on bottom and a seam in the side, and then after you fill it, then you put a lid on it and you get a third seam right here. Okay? Now, the problem with denting cans is that you end up, in most cases, on a three seam can like that, you end up potentially disturbing one of those seams. Okay, and if that seam is disturbed or moved or damaged at all, then it gives a chance for botulism to get in there. And what happens is it pulls into that little crack or crevice that might be left inside that seam, something you and I might not even be able to see. And it'll get in there, and then it seals back up from the juices inside, so now you no longer have oxygen in there, but you just got that anaerobic condition for that bacteria to start growing in. Now, one of the dead giveaways to botulism growing in a can is it makes gas. And instead of having a nice little can lid that's all indented like this, it'll start to puff up. It'll get puffy. So for the most part, dented cans, and especially puffy cans, throw them away. Okay? And now, a can like this type of can, where you see, in fact, you can see, here's one here that's all put together. But you see how the can lid is nice and formed in, like this? Okay, and you see how that seam is all nicely formed on there? Well, it used to be they would have a seam here and vertically also. And dented cans would invariably get to one of those seams. Okay, and that's why we have to be concerned. Now, the nice thing about these kind of cans today is if we get a dent in the bottom or in the side or over in here somewhere, no problem, no seam. It's all seamless. So you're really not probably in too big a problem at all. It's just when it starts getting up near the top edge up in here where this seam is, then you have to evaluate and make a judgment call. And if it's anywhere near that and you think it might have damaged it, throw it away. Don't mess with it. Okay? Now, I will say this only at the expense of you've got to listen to what I'm telling you. If you find a can, you're concerned about its quality, about whether it has botulism or not, okay, what you can do is you can open that up and watch for the fact of it's being expanded, you know, from gas growing. Okay, you could take that product in there and put it in a saucepan and recook it. Okay, in other words, you're doing a home re-sterilization. So this is just an idea that if you're out there in the wilderness someplace and you're faced with something you don't know whether or not you have a good product or not, and you're questioning the value of it, rather than take a chance and eat it as it is and maybe get sick off of it or get botulism or something of that nature, put it in a saucepan, put it in the fire and cook it. Recook it. Just be sure. Okay?
For how long?
You know, something like that, you could probably cook it for about 20 minutes in a little saucepan. You know, just do.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a survival thing is basically what I'm trying to pass along, you know. So, yeah, this is not something I would normally do as a regular practice, but if you find yourself out there in a wilderness someplace and things are tough, you'll do anything. You know, for example, eating bear meat. Bear meat's just full of all kinds of problems, parasites and all kinds of things. So, but it's not that that's not safe to eat. If you cook it up right and you get it, you know, to where it's well done, so to speak, not medium rare, but get it well done, there's no pink left in it, it's edible. You know. May not be great, but it keeps you from starving. That makes good.
You lost me at parasites, I'm thinking.
Well, sorry.
Well, you know, you're not trying to get them in the first place.
Well, okay.